Point Park softball climbs up the standings, track and field continues to smash records, and the NFL calls for a controversial ban. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Megan Lukic, back for another week of breaking sports news. Point Park baseball traveled to West Virginia this past weekend for another set of back-to-back doubleheaders against Mountain East Conference opponents. The Pioneers started the weekend with a sweep against Charleston on Saturday, extending their winning streak to 6 games. In Game 1, Point Park took the early lead on an RBI from Joey Paluski, but Charleston would push ahead 2-1 in the bottom of the second inning. The Pioneers responded in the top of the third when Jared Campbell, Point Park's leader this season in RBIs, added another to his season total to make it a tie game. Point Park would then run away with this game in the 4th and 5th innings, getting RBIs from Chris Williams and Jordan Campbell, and a run from Joey Paluski to bring the final score to 5-2. Javier Cardoso started on the mound for the Pioneers and would pick up the win after pitching 5 innings with 5 strikeouts, 6 hits, 2 runs, and no errors. Ethan Parker closed this game in the last 2 innings, throwing 1 strikeout and giving up no hits. It was a shutout for the Pioneers in Game 2, with Harold Boyce pitching the entire game for Point Park, only giving up 2 hits and throwing 4 strikeouts. Jared Campbell added yet another RBI to his total before Joey Paluski hit his second home run of the season for the 2-0 Point Park lead in the top of the first. An RBI from Omar Murillo in the top of the second would make it a 3-0 lead for Point Park. Then Murillo would kick off an offensive explosion in the top of the 7th with his 5th home run of the season. Isaac Santana, Christian Taveras, and Luis Gonzalez would each pick up an RBI, and the Pioneers would go on to win this one 10-0. To finish their trip, Point Park then headed to Institute, West Virginia on Sunday for matchups against West Virginia State. The Pioneers were unfortunately met with back-to-back losses this time, losing Game 1 11-6 and Game 2 8-5. Point Park now sits 9-3 in conference play and at an overall record of 19-8. Now to Edmi Idalis for a recap on softball's recent games. Edmi?
Thanks, Megan. This past weekend, Point Park softball played 3 Mountain East Conference games, with 1 postponed due to inclement weather. The Pioneers climbed to 5th place in MEC standings in their opening season. On Saturday, the Pioneers played a doubleheader against West Virginia Wesleyan and split the weekend. Wesleyan took the first game with a score of 4-1. Point Park got its first and final run in the first inning, while the Bobcats came back in the 5th inning with all 4 of their runs. For the second game, the Pioneers turned the tide and came back with a dominant win against the Cardinals. Point Park got an early lead with 6 runs in the first inning, along with 1 run in the 4th and 2 in the 5th, cementing the win. The game ended with a score of 9-0. On Sunday, Point Park was set to play a doubleheader against Davis and Elkins, but Game 2 was postponed due to inclement weather. Pioneer Jalen Mulinax pitched the full 7 innings and recorded 7 errors, 7 runs, and 12 hits. The Senators had 2 pitchers, Sammy Jarvis and Alicia Munoz, who combined for 7 errors, 8 runs, and 13 hits. The Pioneers had a close call against the Senators. They started off with a strong leading by 4 in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Point Park getting 1 in the 1st and 4 in the 2nd, while the Senators got their 1st and in the 3rd inning. Davis and Elkins fought hard to catch up in the last 3 innings, but fell short by only 1 run, leaving the score at 8-7. Point Park improved to an overall record of 11-14 and 6-5 in conference play. The Pioneers are set to play 2 MEC doubleheaders. They play against Frostburg State and Fairmont State on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Back to you at the desk, Megan.
Thanks, Edmi. When we come back, more Point Park and local sports. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now for more Point Park sports, we have Ryan Quinn with a report on the recent outdoor track meet. Ryan?
Thanks, Megan. The Pioneers had two meets this past Friday and Saturday, the Carnegie Mellon Invitational in Pittsburgh and the Tim Weaver Invitational in West Liberty, West Virginia. These meets led to another MEC Track Athlete of the Week, 3 broken school records, and 28 top 10 finishes. This time, the MEC honors went to senior Yannick Windelband. The German won the 3,000-meter steeplechase at CMU with a time of 9 minutes and 20.01 seconds. Not only did he break the old record he had set last year, it is the fastest time so far in the MEC. He also finished 4th in the 400-meter hurdles in West Liberty at a time of 59.23 seconds. The other 2 records broken are from some names you've probably heard many times before. Luke McKenna broke the 3,000-meter with a time of 8 minutes, 51.04 seconds, and placed 4th at CMU. Dunya van den Toorn set the school record with 3,754 points in the heptathlon. In the 7 events the heptathlon has, she was able to place 1st in the javelin and the high jump. Top finishes belong to sophomore Emma Romer in the heptathlon with 5th place, Maxwell Good in the long jump in 4th, Kamar Sutherland in the 110-meter hurdles in 4th, Lotte Zethoff in the 400-meter hurdles in 5th, Diamond Rush in the 200-meter placing 5th, and Jana Schmid in the 1,500-meter getting 4th. Coach Tim Creamer and his Pioneers will be split up between 2 meets once again as they look to continue their streak of MEC track athlete honors on April 4th and 5th. One will be the Dave Labor Invitational at Slippery Rock University. The second will be at the Dalton E. Banks Invitational at Fairfax, Virginia at George Mason University. Back to you, Megan.
Thanks, Ryan. Now that's all for Point Park sports this week, but what's to come in the week ahead? Track and field stays busy this weekend, competing in 2 different meets this weekend. Some Pioneers will be in Fairfax, Virginia for the Dalton E. Banks Invite, while others will be at Slippery Rock for the Dave Labor Invite. Conference play continues for baseball and softball as softball plays 2 doubleheaders at home against Frostburg State and Fairmont State. Meanwhile, baseball is on the road for 2 doubleheaders of their own against Fairmont State in West Virginia. Get all the news and more on PointParkSports.com and come back next week for Sideline's own Point Park Sports Update. For all Pioneers students, join the Point Park Bleacher Bash on April 16th for just $20 and sit in the loudest section of the ballpark and an exclusive giveaway at the Pirates game. For more information, click the link in the description or go to the Instagram page at Bleacher Bash. Now what's happening locally? Ryan Thiele has an update. Ryan?
It was a record-breaking week here in the Steel City. Let's get started with the Penguins. The Pens had another rough week, only going 1 for 3 for the games this week, with their only win coming from a 1-0 overtime win against the Senators. None other than Sidney Crosby scored the game-winning goal with a nice top-shelf slap shot. Now, that wasn't the only good thing to happen for the Pens this week, as Sidney Crosby breaks the point-per-game goal record from Wayne Gretzky, now again with his 20th straight season off of having at least a point per game. Steelers, it is worth noting that the Penguins are only 3 games back from the last wild card spot. April 1st will be their next game. Their next game will be Thursday as they will travel to St. Louis to take on the Blues at 8 p.m. Now let's move over to the Steelers. Coach Mike Tomlin spoke to the media on Monday at the annual owners meeting in Florida, and you can guess what it was about. Yes, we are still talking about Aaron Rodgers. Tomlin stated he's a free agent, as you guys know. He came to visit last Friday. We had a really productive day. He's been in this thing a long time. I've been in this thing a long time, but there's no substitute for intimacy and spending the time together and getting to know one another in a non-competitive environment. So that was really good, but I don't have any new updates in terms of where the process is. We'll see where it leads us. That was not the only quote from Mike Tomlin, as he was asked about Mason Rudolph and if he's comfortable with Mason. He stated, "That's why we brought him back," Tomlin commented and continued to say, "I'm comfortable with that, and we've been there before. He's very capable. He's a very capable guy." As the Steelers still try to find their guy, there's also rumors the Steelers are taking a quarterback in the first round. They have officially taken a dinner with Ohio State's quarterback, Will Howard, and Ole Miss's quarterback, Jackson Dart. That's it for the Steelers. Let's move over to the Pirates. The Pirates, like the Pens, only won 1 of their last 5 games to start the season. The Pirates were walked off in a record-tying 4 times in the opening weekend this past week and breaks the record that is already owned by the Pirates in the 1920 season. The losing streak can be blamed on the bullpen, though, as they continue to struggle and give up multiple run leads late in the game. Now, joining me at the desk is Peyton Celeste to talk more about the bad start for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Peyton, thank you for coming and joining us today.
Of course.
So let's just get into the pitching. Our starting pitching has been arguably phenomenal for the start of the season. Now, it's been our bullpen, specifically David Bednar, who was just today optioned to the AAA. How do you feel that David Bednar is starting this year?
Yeah, well, I was hoping that David Bednar would mix his pitches a little better so his fastball would play a little more, because he was able to blow his fastball by everyone when he was an all-star, and that just wasn't the case anymore. Everyone's waiting on it, and they're laying off his curveball. He's not throwing up his changeup enough, and I thought maybe he would change some of his pitch selection, but that hasn't happened. And I think that one game in Miami wasn't really on him, but I think he's lost confidence. I think the team has lost confidence. When everyone in the stands and everyone in the field knows this guy is probably going to blow this game, you know it's time for a change. He needs to go down to AAA and make these adjustments that he needs to make. And I think we talk about the starting pitching. Carmen Mlodzinski in the 5th spot doesn't make sense. In the 3rd or 4th inning, he was starting to get tired, like a reliever typically would. They could really use him in the back end of that bullpen, because Colin Holderman is struggling as well. He's been out of sorts since last August.
So you're talking about the 5th spot. Who else would you like to replace him in the 5th spot?
Well, Thomas Harrington made his major league debut today. I think it's worth giving him a chance. Let him have a few starts, see what happens. I just think whoever they put out there, it's okay, because their first 4 guys they can rely on. And it's more about the offense and getting the bullpen right than who the 5th starter is right now. I think they need to set their priorities straight.
So let's talk about our offense. They have hit the ball really well, but they haven't hit the ball as well when there's runners on base. Where are you seeing them struggling when there's runner on base?
Well, I think the big issue, look, they lead the league in walks. They're being very patient, and that's kind of been the Derek Shelton approach. And what I also like what Derek Shelton has done is he's been much more aggressive on the base paths. O'Neal Cruz tied or leading the league in stolen bases. The Pirates have the most stolen bases in baseball right now. But when those guys get on base, when they get in scoring position, they're 9 for 43 with runners in scoring position. And I think the issue is everyone is being so patient at the plate. I see so many first pitch strikes go by. You have to attack the first pitch, or the first pitch, the first pitch that you see. And I think they're just being a little too passive, not aggressive enough. And I think it starts with the fundamentals. These games against the Marlins, it was bad fundamentals on defense especially, and with runners in scoring position at the plate.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Payne. We'll be back here with more breaking sports news. Stay tuned.
Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Let's start our national stories by sending things over to Ryan Jones for news on college hockey's biggest tourney. Ryan?
Thanks, Megan. The 2025 Men's Frozen Four is set, taking place in St. Louis, Missouri at the Enterprise Center, with Western Michigan, Denver, Boston University, and Penn State being the Final Four teams. This tournament could not get more exciting. Although Denver and Boston University are veterans when it comes to this tournament, both Western Michigan and Penn State have never been in the Frozen Four before. The Frozen Four begins next Thursday, April 10th, with Denver and Western Michigan starting it off at 5 p.m. Then Penn State and Boston University wrapping up the night at 8:30. The winner of both of those games will face off in the Frozen Four Championship just 2 days later, Saturday, April 12th at 7:30. Now to Ronan Lancaster for a potential NFL rule change. Ronan?
Thanks, Ryan. In recent days, the call for the Philadelphia Eagles' famous play, the tush push, to be banned has gained some traction. A report from ESPN came out saying that the tush push ban has support in the competition committee. The Green Bay Packers submitted this proposal originally. This topic is going to be hotly contested, as there are many different opinions on the play and if it should be banned or not. The Philadelphia Eagles would need some people to side with them when it comes to a vote in order to save this play that they love. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni said, quote, "All I will say about it is Gannon, Steichen, and Moore better vote for it," end quote. He later went on to say, quote, They are in the position right now because of that play. So all three, I better have those three votes right there and the Eagles vote. I at least know we have 4, end quote. All 32 teams are expected to vote on proposals. So will we see the tush push banned, or will the Philadelphia Eagles continue to use their infamous play? We'll find out soon. Now, to Layla Shervon for some more March controversy. Layla?
Thanks, Ronan. LSU women's basketball head coach Kim Mulkey is under controversy again for a recent response to a reporter after the team's 72-65 loss to the UCLA in the Elite Eight of the women's NCAA tournament. Jaden Smith of KLSU Sports, a radio station connected to LSU, was starting to pose a reasonable and non-threatening question. He began by stating that it is a verified fact that LSU was eliminated in the Elite Eight for the second consecutive year, but Smith never made it past the setup because Mulkey chose to embarrass him in front of the other journalists as soon as he brought up that, again, factual assertion. Mulkey said with a snark in her voice, quote, "Is that terrible or good?" end quote. Smith replied, quote, "Terrible," end quote, but based on the tone of the conversation, Smith thought he was matching her sarcastic demeanor. Mulkey snapped back again, saying, quote, "Is it? How many Final Fours have you played in?" end quote. Shocked, Jaden replied, quote, "None," end quote, but Mulkey then fired back again by saying, quote, "So it's probably pretty good, huh?" end quote. Jaden was left speechless. For Mulkey, her interaction with the journalist is not a novel experience. At the tournament last year, she erupted multiple times and unleashed a 4-minute verbal attack regarding an article from the Washington Post that had not even been published about her yet. She also issued threats to that reporter. During 2022, Mulkey also fully silenced a reporter who was asking about Brittany Griner, who was then in Russian custody. This new altercation left the media disappointed in Mulkey, even reaching responses from analysts such as ESPN's Stephen A. Smith. Longtime ESPN analysis said, quote, "I'm not going to take away from the fact that Kim Mulkey is a great coach and an established coach. We just really need to finally say this about her. She's rude. She's very, very rude. She's rude, she's condescending, and unnecessarily so to too many people," end quote, in an ad-lib on Monday morning's ESPN show. Mulkey just wrapped up her 4th season at LSU. She led the Tigers to a national championship in 2023, which marked her 4th national title after winning 3 with the Baylor Bears. The Tigers went 31-6 this season. And that is all from me and the rest of us. Back to you, Megan.
Thanks, everyone. Next, we discuss the March Madness Final Four. Join us for our case of the week after the break. Welcome back. With college basketball reaching its Final Four, it's time to predict who will cut down the nets in this year's March Madness tournament. I'm joined by Gabe, Ryan Quinn, and Peyton to discuss this. So to start things off here, we've got Florida against Auburn, and then Duke against Houston. Gabe, we'll start over with you in the Florida-Auburn game. Who do you think is going to take that one and make it to the national championship?
While I hope that Auburn gets this win for my bracket's sake, I'm going to go with Florida here. And yes, they've been battle-tested. They've played in a couple close games recently, games they should have lost, especially against Texas Tech. But Walter Clayton Jr. is going to be the best player on that court coming into that game, regardless if Johnny Broome is the National Player of the Year or not. And they're the hotter team right now. Auburn has struggled in the first half of a lot of their games coming out, and I think if they come out flat, they're going to have to pay against Florida. And they already lost to them this year, so I'm thinking that that's going to happen again.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with Gabe. I mean, we saw Walter Clayton do what he did against Texas Tech. That was an absolutely insane comeback from them when it came to this March Madness tournament. So, yeah, I think Walter Clayton's going to be the X factor there, allowing the Gators to come out and get to the national championship.
I have to disagree. Auburn was the #1 overall seed for a reason. They have the best player in this game in Johnny Broome. Hopefully he's healthy. This Florida team got physically bullied by a Texas Tech team that isn't that deep, doesn't have great rim protection, and if it wasn't for Walter Clayton just going to the three-point line and shooting up a bunch of threes, they lose that game. Texas Tech was the better team. I think if you shut down Walter Clayton, if Johnny Broome is healthy, Auburn's going to win that game. They're going to pull it out in the end. The last couple minutes, they'll kind of relax.
My only argument to that would be is Auburn was playing their best basketball at the beginning of the year. It's not right now. They lost their 3 games before the tournament going into that, and they didn't win their conference tournament. Florida won the conference tournament.
And that was 5 games ago.
5 games ago, they've been looking flat most of the tournament, and they were already playing
Final Four.
Final Four. If you think it's going to be different, we're going to see, but I very, very much disagree. If they already beat them whenever they were playing flat.
All right, so on the other side of the bracket, we've got Houston and Duke. Peyton, we'll start with you this time. Who do you got?
This is tough for me. I think whoever wins this game is going to win the national championship. The best player in the game is Cooper Flagg. That's without a question. I think Duke has the deeper team. But Houston, the way they played defense against Tennessee, they were on their toes, everything. I mean, they were just flooding them with everything that Calvin Sampson could throw at them. And I think Houston has the coaching edge. Calvin Sampson, 798 wins. I'd love to see him get to 800 wins and get a national championship. I think Duke has the better player, the better team, but I think Calvin Sampson, the coach, is the difference in this game. And I think LJ Cryer, if he has a game, if he's shooting threes, they're tough to stop.
Ryan?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said, Peyton, about the coach. They have that coaching edge. They have the incredible defense. Watching that help defense they had against everyone on Tennessee was absolutely incredible. However, I do think, like you said, they have one of the best players in the game, Cooper Flagg, and that's what I really think about when it comes to college basketball. I said it with Walter Clayton. He was able to be the X factor in that Florida game and be able to pull out that victory for the Gators. I think the same thing's going to happen with Duke. I think Cooper Flagg's going to lock in that entire group. They have a freshman there. They're going to be able to come up clutch here and be able to beat and get to the national championship.
First off, I agree with what you said with the winner of this game will be the national champion. And the reason why is Duke hasn't lost a half this entire tournament on one hand. They've been blowing teams out by the half. And they've just looked complete the entire game, 40 minutes. Houston, on the other hand, we just saw what they did to Tennessee. 15 points in the first half. They came out hounding on defense. And like you said, LJ Cryer, they're hitting threes. They're almost an impossible team to play. Their only chance you have is that they can be a little bit cold shooting. So I think the winner of this team is going to be whoever comes out hotter. Because Duke's been hot coming out, and Houston's good at keeping teams from getting hot coming out. I think that Houston defensively is going to have the advantage because just some jitters. It's going to be a big stage for Flagg to be playing on Duke, and we're just going to see if they get going slow early. I'm going to pick Houston in this one, and I think they're going to go all the way.
All right, so Ryan, you had Duke winning that one. You've got them against Florida in the final. Who do you have between those two?
I'm going to have to go with Duke there. I think they just have the better complete team when it comes to Florida, and I think they're going to have the better shot here. Like I said, I think you put up Walter Clayton and Cooper Flagg. I just think it's against those star players. When I always think about when it comes to basketball, you think of LeBron, you think of Jordan, you think of all of that. When it comes to basketball, those star players are the X factor, and you see it every time. And I think it's going to be Cooper Flagg that comes out to be the X factor in that national championship game, and they come home with the title.
Now, you had Houston in this one.
Yep.
You already said that you think they're going to win.
I do.
What advantages do you think they have over Florida?
Over Florida?
Yeah, because you have Florida going up against them.
Okay, so against Florida's a team, like we said, Walter Clayton, they're a perimeter shooting team. and they struggle to get to the free throw line. So if you want to get physical with them, like Houston tends to do, and you put them on the line and you force them to make tough contested shots, I think that that's where they really have the advantage. And even where they play Duke is those teams thrive on shooting threes. And Houston thrives at taking away threes from teams. Their perimeter defense is their signature part of their team. So I think that they're going to play to their strengths, and that's why they're going to take it.
All right, and Peyton?
Yeah, I'll have Houston over Auburn. I think Auburn can beat anybody, but I am concerned about if Johni Broome is hurt or not 100%, especially if he plays and then isn't in the semifinal and just isn't quite himself for the championship game. I worry about Auburn in that game against a physical Houston team and a team that you can argue they shoot better than Auburn. So I would go with Houston as well to win the national championship. They got to get past Duke first. That's going to be tough.
Duke's going to be tough. I love that matchup. I think having like the best offense, best defense, one-on-one. I know a lot of this tournament has been a lot of chalk. A lot of people saying it's not like the best March Madness that we've had, the most entertaining. But I think this is what you want when it comes to like playoffs in any other sport. You want the best versus the best, and that's exactly what we're getting here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Even though it's going to be all number one seeds in the Final Four, it'll certainly still be exciting and interesting to watch. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.